Hey everyone, welcome back to Software Testing Mentor and RCV Academy. Today we are here with Ekta. She is a computer science graduate and she has been placed into L&T Infotech, but due to some circumstances, she was not able to join at that time. After that, she worked as assistant professor in computer science department in one of the college. Now she again wants to get into the IT and especially into software testing. So let's welcome Ekta. Today's focus will be manual testing and will be focusing on 0 to 1 years, or you can say up to 2 years experience candidate for the software testing. So welcome, Ekta. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm fine. I'm good. What about you?
Thanks, Ekta. I'm good as well. Thank you very much for joining the call. So you are all good with the mock interview, and we can start.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm
So
ready.
so prior to starting, Ekta, I would like to know. I would like to inform you that this video is getting recorded and will be posted on the YouTube for other viewers to watch and learn how interviews get conducted and know what answers they can give. Right. So, are you fine with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay, great. All right. So, Ekta, let's get started. So, briefly, can you tell me something about your professional background? I mean, I know few things about you from your resume. What have you been doing in your professional journey till now?
Uh, Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Actually, I am got placed in L&T Infotech at my campus selection,
Mhm,
but the crisis was there and I got married, so location was an issue, so I couldn't join that time.
mhm,
And meanwhile, I started working in a computer in a college in computer department and teaching BCA students Java, some language Java and C++.
mhm.
Then again, I have to quit my job because of some family priorities and personal health issues.
Sure.
I have experience, but this is very less. So I'm
Mhm.
searching for more.
Sure. That's great. I think I truly respect like you have I mean I have talked to you offline and you have given priorities to something which are very important things in life. So absolutely, huge respect about that, and I am very sure that you will be at very good position very soon. So all most of the previous candidates who have came for the interview, they have been you know placed almost. So I'll be posting some of the success stories soon, which I have got through email and all. So that's great. Let's jump straight into the questions. So basically, let's start with, because you're trying to venture. I mean, you want to get into software testing. So what is the importance of software testing? Let's start from that. Why is it important?
Because we want to deliver quality product to customer. Customer should be satisfied, he should be happy, and he should be agree and try to reconnect with us for the other products too, so that will be also beneficial for the company. So
Mhm.
main point is the quality product should be delivered to the customer for their satisfaction.
Absolutely, yeah. So quality is the key
Right.
require, basically you can say key thing in any, whether it's software or anything, right? I mean, like we buy anything, we look for quality, right? It doesn't matter if it things are a little bit pricey or cheap. As far as the quality is good, as an end user we are happy. So
Yeah.
that's the whole purpose of software testing as well. There can be other, quality is the first and foremost thing. You can add few more things like to ensure that it meets the customer requirements as well, right? But your answer is absolutely spot on. Quality, and quality, when we say quality, it includes everything by default, right? I mean, quality includes that it is fit for use. Quality includes that it meets the customer requirement. So absolutely spot on. Great. So you have mentioned about the software requirement specification in your resume, right? So what exactly is this document, software requirement specification?
It's basically it's a document that is maintained by a leader, or you can say team manager or product manager,
Mhm.
and this they collect the requirement for the client from the customer, and they will convert it into technical form. When they got it, that is basically in the form of from informal way what the customer thought in that way. But
Yeah.
the BA will convert this document, the BRS, into the FRS. That is the more functional format. So the designing part should be done, and the developer and the tester should also understand what they have to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great. So I think you have covered, there are some key words that you have, like you have used BA, you have used product manager or product owner, which is good. Like it's the specification document or what exactly the customer will need. They get those requirements and they document it, and that document is SRS or software requirement specification. Nowadays, you have also mentioned that you know a little bit about Agile. I won't go into too detail about the Agile, but SRS document, what is the equivalent of SRS in Agile development approach? Like, do you think still we do SRS or there are documents?
Yeah, we are doing, because without that we can't be able to work on the product. We need some information. So
Yeah.
user stories are there in Agile, and with the user story we create a product backlog, and on the with the product backlog we create a sprint backlogs. So the documentation are there, but in the less form of the previous model.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think you mentioned that you know very little about Agile, but you have told about the product backlog, sprint backlog. So, but that's sort of, I would say you know quite a bit about Agile. So if you've talked about product backlog, that's good information. But that's great. Yeah, we still have this specification or the requirement. It's the form has changed. Basically, now we manage it all into the user story format, and wherever required, we elaborate it, right? So it's not like you don't do any documentation. Agile doesn't say that you do not do any documentation. You still do documentation, but wherever required, you only avoid unnecessary documentation, which you have covered. So great. So you know basically the correlation of SRS with Agile as well. So that's great. Let's move on to the next one. So how is waterfall software development life cycle different from V model?
In the waterfall model, we are following the linear execution process. But when the one phase is completed, then we'll go on the second phase of the SDLC process or software development life cycle. But in the V model, all the things are doing parallelly. Like the verification is also there's one side, and the validation is also doing the other side. So and we doesn't in the waterfall model, actually the input of the next stage is the output of the previous stage. But in the V model, what if we are following a process? First FRS is there, SRS there, so that will be input for the user acceptance testing and system testing. And the same way, if we are going down, so like a design part and HDLT, SDLC, and the coding. So that will be go with the unit testing and integration testing. So the things are going parallelly. That's the beneficial point from the V model over the waterfall model that
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like you have covered the disadvantages as well of the waterfall, and that's where to overcome that, V model was introduced to basically, because you mentioned like the input output. I mean, once one particular phase was finished in waterfall, then it was sort of a input for the second phase. So it was like by the time you are in the development phase, and if there was an issue in the requirement, you couldn't identify that until you came to the testing. So absolutely spot on answer. I don't think I need to add too much because you know that stuff already. So like then on just similar note, I would like to know then why, so because V model was advantageous over waterfall, then why did Agile came in picture?
In V model, we need more documentation. And we have to focus on the documentation part highly recommended.
Mhm.
And the second thing, there is no any iteration format. If we are
Mhm.
going for we want to change any requirement, so we have
Mhm.
to again follow the, we have to wait, we have to start from the initial stage. But in
Mhm.
the agile, the iteration is there, and we are delivering the product in a short form, in a sprint form, in a, you can say, chunk form. So
Mhm.
after a chunk, we can really we can add any new requirements
Mhm.
or the customers feedback. So the feedback is coming in the agile and we can
Right.
add it, but in
Right.
the V model it is not possible.
Right. Yes. Yes. So like V model, it was there. The feedback loop was there, but the feedback was very like after a year or a year and a
Yeah,
half, right?
completion, after the completion of the product.
Yes. Yes. So that's where agile helps. Like you have covered iteration, the sprints. So feedback is very quick. So great. I'm happy with the answer. All
Thank you
right.
so
So
much.
let's move to the next one. So what are some of the phases of software testing life cycle? Can you name some of the just a couple of them?
Yeah, the test planning will be there, then
Mhm.
test design or test development is there,
Mhm.
the environment setup is there, then execution is there, and
Mhm.
then test closure is there.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Great. I think you have covered most of them. Again, correlating it to agile. In
sure,
agile, do we actually do all these phases? Do we need to
sure.
do all these phases?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
And the
Yeah.
in the sprint planning meeting,
Yeah.
we are deciding what of the both the all team members are working together at the one time. But the
Mhm.
same thing, the tester will do their process and the development their process. So
Mhm.
tester will do all the things in a form of you can what I can say. The testing is also there. They
Mhm.
will test the unit testing. They will do, the developer do, then the sprint planning meeting is there, so
Mhm.
they will check the story points for involve, for how much uh, time slot they need to complete the sprint,
Mhm.
and they can relate it, and they can if that, if that story is not completed, or that sprint is not completed in that specific point, then it will go in the next sprint. So this
Right.
is how it is related to the
Yeah. Yeah.
process. Same.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, STLC is still applicable, right? So it's
Yes.
still applicable. All the phases that you have, mentioned, like test closure, usually everything has, reduced to very short and crisp sort of format, but you still do plan. You still do plan what you're going to test. You still write, scenarios. If you can't elaborate lengthy test cases, still write scenarios. You still understand. The core thing is you work in a collaboration with the whole team that you covered, right? So
Right.
still STLC is
Is
very
there.
applicable. So I'm going into the whole correlation because I know that like initially you mentioned you didn't have too much understanding about agile, but I think you have good understanding, and that is why I'll connect everything, most of the questions, I think, with the agile.
I'll
Okay.
try to.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's move on to the next. So test designing, basically. So how are equivalence partitioning and boundary value analysis related?
And agile
uh
or normal.
Generally normal. Yeah, normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are the testing techniques where the basically we focus on input domain. Uh, when the if there is a text field
Mm-hmm.
or a, a text field that has a title of age. So
Mm-hmm.
between age and the, you can apply age for the 18 to 30.
Mm-hmm.
So for the boundary value analysis, what the tester will do, the check only 6 parameters that will cover all the scenarios, all the
Mm-hmm.
possible combinations.
Mm-hmm.
So for the 18 to 30, the combination of the input will be the first on the boundary,
Mm-hmm.
18 and 30, that this is valid.
Mm-hmm.
And again, 18 plus 1 is
Mm-hmm.
minimum 1 plus 1, you can say. So
Mm-hmm.
19 he'll check. Then that is also valid. Again, he will go for the uh, uh, I can 30 minus 1, maximum minus 1. So
Mm-hmm.
29 he will check. So it is again valid. These are the valid scenarios. For the invalid scenarios, there will be two parameters, minimum -1 and maximum +1. So on the 17, he will check if it is not giving the giving error message, then it is totally fine. And the same thing he will check with the 31. So on boundary value analysis, mostly we are focusing on the range of the inputs.
Yeah.
But in the equivalence class partition, we are mainly focusing on the value of the inputs. So for the equivalence class partition, if I'll take the same example, so what the tester will do, or what I will do, or what we will do is, like, we'll create 3 classes, 2 for invalid and 1 is for valid. So in that, the range will be 18 to 30 is the valid range, and less than 18, or you can say equal to 17, is invalid, and the same less than or less than, greater than or equal to 30 is for invalid.
Right.
So that's it.
Yeah. So greater than 30, right? Greater than 30, because 30 was in the valid range, right? So 18 to 30. Yeah. Great. So I think, yeah, I don't need to add anything, because you have taken the example of the input field, and you can basically, you have taken an example, you have explained all the conditions that are possible in the boundary value analysis and equivalence class partition. So absolutely correct. And this, just to add that how important this test design technique is, that it doesn't matter where you are working or which product you are working, which domain you are working. This is, whether you know it or you don't know it, by default you use these techniques to design your test cases. So it's better you know and you have the clear understanding, right? So absolutely fantastic that you know that where you have to use. So say, for example, I'll give you an example of a e-commerce website where you have these offers going on. So I know that what sort of test cases you will come through, right? So this is what usually interviewers look for in the candidates. So if I'm an e-commerce business and I'm hiring you as a tester, and if you know that this is how you design the test cases, so I know I'm hiring the right candidate who will be able to analyze the requirements accordingly and test the offer related module that my e-commerce business has, right? So absolutely great answer. Okay, let's move to the next one. So why do we need the defect management process? What's the importance of it?
For the defect management process, we are ensuring that defect on which state is it, how long it is going to fix, and if their developer are accepting it, this or not. It is a real time scenario issues, it is a environmental issues, or it is a coding issue. So this, all the scenarios, if we connect with the defect, so we can trace it through the defect report. And in defect report, there is also requirement ID is there, so we can relate all the things, from which test case, which requirement the defect is connected comes, and how can we close this thing, how can we retest this thing, all the things. So,
right. Yeah. So overall, you are saying, like, the process, overall the process helps us to manage the life cycle of defects properly and see we are tracking things properly, right? I mean, it's not haphazard. It's not just, we don't know which defect related to which and which state it is at the moment, right? So yeah, so that's correct. So the importance of the process, it's not just defect management process, it's basically the testing, right? So the life cycle or the process becomes important because it gives you it gives the team a clear indication what they need to follow in order to deliver a project from start to finish, right? So for a project, you have this project management, right? Project management or project overall process. Then defect, how you will manage the defects. So defect management process. So it has the life cycle basically to manage the overall things. Great. Let's move on. So again, with the related to defects, it's again, I think, somewhere from your resume. So which defect management tools have you worked on or basically are aware of? And then the next thing is, what benefits do you think you get from the defect management tools?
So Jira is there. Jira is
Mhm.
a agile tool that is for help that provides all the facilities like test management,
Mhm.
defect management, project management. All the things are there. Or for
Mhm.
the specific tool, I can say Bugzilla or Zypher is there. I'm
Mhm.
not quite friendly with them.
Mhm.
So I just overview. I'm having overview of this. That's it.
Yeah, great,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I think that's great. So like Jira has built-in defect management within it, right? You can, but Jira is ideally, like Jira is basically the agile project management tool, but then you have the defect management within it, and you can also have uh, test case management. So basically test management, which is Zephyr, right? So you have mentioned that you are not too aware of it. But I have posted a complete series on Jira and Zephyr. If you want to learn,
Sure.
please go and learn, because it's just like 10 videos and you will know everything about Zephyr, how to do test management. But your understanding about the defect management tools is absolutely correct. The next thing I would like to know is, what are the benefits that these defect management tool will bring?
I will say again same thing. The
Mm-hmm.
last question I said.
Mm-hmm.
We can follow in a proper manner in a process. We
Mm-hmm.
can assign the specific uh, bug to the specific developer
Mm-hmm.
by to whom we are assigning, and we can know which one has found, which
Mm-hmm.
tester found,
Yeah.
and on which date it is going to submit it for to the
Yeah.
tester to the developer,
Mm-hmm.
or how long time it take to complete all
Yeah.
the basic things to related the actually performance of the tester and the developer, so we
Mm-hmm.
can calculate with this tool.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think, yeah, it was similar sort of, what you mentioned, but that's the benefit, right? I mean, whatever defect management process we talked about, that's what the defect management tool provides you, right? It has the embedded process within it that you can customize, of course. But yes, all the benefits that you mentioned previously, whether it's the process, that is what is available in the tool. Great. Okay, let's move on to next question. So basically, what is the difference between the functional and non-functional testing?
In functional testing means we are functioning on the focusing on the behavior of the application.
Mm-hmm.
But on the non-functional testing, we are focusing on the performance of the application.
Mm-hmm.
And functional testing, we are checking the application as a customer requirement. But in the non-functional testing, we are verifying the application as per the customer expectation. So for the non-functional, what we are doing, that things are not mentioned by the customer or a user. We are doing this by ourselves to check the performance, to check the stability, to check the reliability, to
Mm-hmm.
the how the customer is going to use it, how we will be happy to use it.
Mm-hmm.
It will be not, it should not that the function is there, but he is not able to work on that. So the both
Absolutely.
things are prior have their own priority,
Mm-hmm.
and the functional testing will do first, and after that we'll go for the non-functional testing. The functional testing are like system testing, unit testings. These all things are come in the functional testing.
Mm-hmm.
In non-functional testing, the performance testing, security testing,
Mm-hmm.
or configuration testing,
Mm-hmm.
all the testing that are related to performance are coming in the non-functional testing.
Right. Yeah. Great. So yes. So just to correct a little bit on that. So it's possible that customer might give the non-functional requirement as well. Not it might be and might not be. Like you mentioned that
Yeah.
they might not provide it, but sometimes what the customer says, like this is what response time I need, right? Or if they don't provide the requirement, usually as a development team or as a product owner, the person goes and asks, like, this is the web portal, what do you want, the response time, whether you want the portal to load in a second or half a second or 2 seconds. So it's more of a collaboration and cross questioning to the customer, and then they get to know, because customer might not know about non-functional things upfront. Okay, so they might and they might not. If they are not providing, they say, you guys decide what is the best, thing for this particular application. I'm okay with it, right? But make sure that it doesn't take ages to load, right? It responds in a second or half a second. Okay, so then it's a different story. But absolutely, like the difference between functional and non-functional, how you do it, that answer is absolutely correct. Okay, just a little correction over there. Okay, so it's possible, or it customers says to the dev team. Okay, now let's I mean, I have asked many agile questions to you always, but let's see a couple of more. So what do you understand by Scrum?
Scrum is a framework that following the agile methodology. And in Scrum we are by this following the Scrum, we are going to develop and test and deliver the quality product or to the customer. So in a Scrum, there are three main roles are there: product owner, Scrum master, and Scrum team. So they actually in Scrum, they all are the same level. There is no level defined, but they have different responsibility. So for the product owner, he will connect with the customer, he will collect the requirements, and then he will convert and convey to the QA team and the developer team. And the Scrum Master is the manager of this whole process. He will decide, he will trace all the performance of the team members, and he will organize all the meeting. If the bug is there, so that is fixed or not. So all the things that is related to the performance, he will check.
Okay, great. So many things correct there. In terms of Scrum Master, the role Scrum Master won't be a manager. So just do not use manager role, because in agile they don't have any sort of, there is in SAFe, so there is scaled agile wherein they have some manager roles at a higher level, but Scrum Master is more of a servant leader. So his main purpose is to make sure the team is working collaboratively and delivering the value, right? So he or she doesn't usually tracks the performance or manages anything, but apart from that, all other things that you have mentioned in the answer are correct, like product owner. And Scrum is a framework, which is very important that you mentioned, right? So Scrum is a framework and agile is a set of values and principles. Okay, so very, very important point you mentioned, that Scrum is a framework. Okay, great. Just do not use manager word for Scrum Master. Okay, that's just a little correction.
I know that, but it comes in the flow. So
yes, yeah, because I knew like you have good understanding about agile. And you knew three roles as well, right? So which shows that you know all about Scrum, agile. You mentioned about sprint planning, product backlog. So, and you mentioned about sprint planning. So let's ask a little bit, let's discuss a little bit more about the sprint planning, say. So what exactly happens in sprint planning?
Sprint planning meeting, basically it is helpful for the QA and developer team. In that, they will decide what specific time they need to complete the specific story, to complete that sprint, and story point they decide, and then what task they have to divide in their teams. They will also that decide, so who is going to perform that and how they are connected, which part should come first and which part should come later. The basic from the QA and developer team, mainly focusing on the QA and developer team. The product backlog or product is for the whole product. So all the user story will be there. But in the sprint planning meeting, we only focuses on a specific user story.
Correct. Yes. So you only pick the user stories, the prioritized user stories, like pick these, like product owner will say, he'll mention the priority in the product backlog. And from there, you pick the top priority one and start building in sprint planning. So you discuss that in sprint planning. Great. All right. So you are not basic in agile, I would say that. So let's move on to let's move on to the next question, Ekta. So Now, in the personal skills, you have mentioned you are willing to learn. Can
Yes.
you give me an example? Like when you say willing to learn, what exactly are you doing? And what is the latest thing that you have learned?
First thing, the same, this happening because I am willing to learn. I have just decided to I want to go for that my IT field. So in a month, you can say in a month, I have decided, I have started the process, and I'm finally there for the mock interview.
Hmm.
This is for one example for my learning. And
Hmm.
the second, normal basic, you can say, take the examples as a student. I don't know how to cook, but
Hmm.
now I'm very good in cooking. So I learned dance also.
Hmm.
Uh, so with the, it's not important from that I am learning the salsa only. So I
Hmm.
can learn from my kids also. If he is doing some new dance and I'm liking, then I will follow that. Okay, son, we'll do together. So that's
Great.
the thing. You will more involved in that, and you're going to like it more if you will start from the basic steps. If you're following the higher step, I want to do the salsa, though, then you will finally do, you will quit. Oh my god, the salsa is not our level.
Hmm.
So I know my level. I want to start from the basic, and then I will try my best for the harder level too.
Great, great. Okay. So whatever you have spoken in the interview, this is your 1 month learning. Is that true?
Yeah, it's very much true. I can tell you the date also if you want to know that.
No, no, that's fine. That's fine. Great, great.
I have
So yeah.
started around 20th July, and I'm
Okay.
there on 15. Yeah.
Great, great,
So
great, great. Yeah. Okay. That's great. All right. Another thing you have mentioned is analytical skills. You have good analytical skills. So why are analytical skills important?
as a tester, its analytical skills is very important because there is you don't know how the customer is going to use that product.
Hmm.
You are thinking as a, you are using a customer perspective. You are thinking as a customer perspective, and then you are trying to find a bug in that report. So that is more important analytical skills. And coding is also, and you need analytical skills, but in that you have basic the requirements are there. You have to design a code just like a
Hmm.
loop. You have to design, so it should go from 1 to 10, so you know how to do it. But for
Absolutely.
the
Yeah.
tester, for the tester's responsibility, so they have to think for the positive as well as for the negative. But in the coding, they will not follow negative. If there is negative, they will show the error is there, so that's it. You are not
Hmm.
going to.
Right.
But for the tester, they have to give the error message also, that their responsibility. They should give the error message to the customer,
Hmm.
so the customer should know what they are doing wrong and how they will go to do it right way.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Great. So yeah, I mean, it's very important skills, and it skill. It doesn't matter you are tester or anyone.
Correct.
Basically, if you have good analytical skills, then you know how to solve the problems. And as a
Mhm.
tester, it becomes even more important, I would say, right? Like you mentioned, that developer, like you have been given a design and you are just writing the code, right? So I totally agree. I'm into testing, and I don't feel saying that testing is a challenging field and requires very good analytical skills. Okay, because I also do programming. I know programming, so I know the challenges that you face in testing. So absolutely spot on answer. You need to understand what customer will do from the solution, from the application. Then if you are trying to do testing, you need to understand how you are going to approach testing, right? Like you mentioned about boundary value analysis and equivalence partitioning. These are the things that you can apply. But then there are many things, there are many integrations with the systems that you do not know. Then there is something, how you are going to test, how you are going to expedite your testing, like in agile, right? In scrum, you have to move fast, you have to write scripts. So how can you write the scripts and solve the problem in very easy manner and make things quicker? So all of this requires problem solving, right? So analytical skills become very, very important. So absolutely fantastic, Ekta. And I think I have covered most of the stuff that you have mentioned in your resume. Not all of it, but yeah, I think we have covered a lot of it. So it was great, basically, overall. So this brings to the last question, right? If you have any question, we can discuss, or otherwise we'll go to the feedback.
I just want to know that I'm trying to apply for the manual testing, and
Mhm.
then some links are there. The embedded QA. Are you going to willing to apply? So what they are embedded QA, or how they are going to, matlab, what the quality they need for that, if I will to apply on that.
Embedded QA, is it something specific like embedded design testing or something? Because
I don't remember.
I'm hearing this term embedded QA, like it might be a term going on in India, but I haven't heard it here.
I don't
Uh,
know. I just saw on that the applying time. So I
okay,
just thought I should ask. That's it. And
right.
nothing
So
to that too much.
what's there in the job description? Maybe that will help. What
So
do
I
they ask?
exactly I don't remember because I in the morning the first I will do that, open my apps and I'll
Hmm.
apply all the manual testing related. I
Hmm.
just check the manual testing is there, basic test techniques and all the things
Hmm.
criteria I will check, and then
Hmm.
I will apply.
Hmm.
Almost 10 to 15 I'm going to apply. So I don't remember
Hmm.
exactly what they have mentioned. Just
Right.
I
Okay.
keyword is there, so I just asked it. It's
Okay,
no.
okay. Yeah, because to be very frank, I am not sure about it. I would be able to answer if I will read what the job description is,
Yeah.
whether it's for embedded design or like it's something embedded QA, or a person basically who is able to do multiple things. So it could be anything, right? So you need to check the description. All
And
right. Yeah.
what you can suggest for me
Mhm.
to apply, or what the level I am
Yes,
on?
I'll come to the feedback and I'll definitely answer all of that. Okay. So feedback wise, your resume needs a bit of rework. Okay. So what rework it needs? Format is okay. You need to elaborate it a little bit. Okay. You have done very well in the interview, and that knowledge should reflect in your resume. Okay. Your learning should reflect in here. You are not basic in agile, I would say. I mean, I'm safe program consultant, so I'm like safe certified, which is program consultant, so enterprise level agile coach. So talking to you, like you mentioned, you're very, very basic, and I've talked to people who are like working in agile for 5 years, but they don't have the willingness to understand how things work in agile. Right? You have willingness and you have that understanding, so mention all of that. Otherwise, your personal details, I see everyone who sends the resume has all their personal details, including address and everything. Is it a requirement that you have to enter, like, because when I
I
was there
think
in
it's
India, it
basic
wasn't.
format.
Sorry.
I, I think so. It's a basic format that I follow. I don't
Okay.
know about that if it is necessity or not, because I mentioned it down, because if they want to check, they can check.
Hmm.
Otherwise, they can just leave it. I
Right.
didn't mention at the upper side
Yeah.
because obviously they need the just a phone number and the email address. That's
Right.
it.
That's it. Like the resume only needs your contact details, like phone number and email. And especially with current scenario, like your personal information is very much private to you, right? So and when you put it in the resume, if it goes into the wrong hands, everyone knows that this is your address, or things like that. So I don't think anyone would need it, and this is not
Okay.
required to put it there.
Okay.
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 So
I got
unless until when you get selected, company anyways asks you all
it.
those details. So if it is not required, you can skip it. Try to put
Okay.
a lot of more details around your skill set. Move the education section to the second page, or to the end of the first page. Okay. I have a video, I have a template that is something similar, like that template is not very fancy, but it's something similar. But you can go through and watch that video to see what key sections you need to include in the first page itself, and then what sections you can include in the second page. But otherwise, your resume format and everything is all good. We do not, I mean, recruiters do not want very fancy resumes. Okay. So don't worry too much about it. Key thing is getting the right information, your knowledge to be displayed there. Now, coming back to the overall interview. So all the questions that I have asked, you have been able to answer all of them correctly. Okay, there are very few bits and pieces that I had to correct a little bit. All right, so you're based on, like you mentioned, you have been learning this for a month, so I'm pretty sure that you grasp things very quickly. Keep doing it, and expand your knowledge around agile. You have good grasp over agile, you have good grasp over manual testing. Based on like 1 month learning, you have learned along with the examples and details, which is very, very good and commendable. So keep doing it in the flow part, right? So when you talk, so basically just try to be relaxed. That's it. Just be relaxed. Okay, like do not get, so interview is just a chat. Just think like you are casually having a chat with someone. There will be only two outcomes, select or reject, right? Do not worry about the outcome. Just go and give your best, relax, have a chat. That's it. Okay, I have been rejected so many times, and that's how I learned to be relaxed. I know, I mean, the max that could happen is I'll get rejected, but I'll go and I'll give my best, and I will have a good conversation with the person. Okay, nobody can judge what you are in an hour. Just keep that in back of your mind. Okay, do not think that if you get rejected, then you do not know things, or there is because of your knowledge you got rejected. Never ever think about that. Okay, this will reduce your confidence. All right, so it's just a conversation. Like everyone has very little knowledge about the overall IT landscape. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you have been, I've been working 16 years, I still know just very little drop in the ocean. Okay, so just go have a chat. Don't think that the person in front of you knows a lot and you do not know anything, right? You know a lot from your experience. The person who is interviewing you may be knowing a lot from his own experience, but that doesn't makes your learning small or big. Okay, so that will give you a bit of comfort. Just think about that, deep breathe. That's it. So overall, absolutely fantastic interview. Just that bit I found that you have to be little bit relaxed, and your interview will be very smooth. Okay, all right. Are you on mute? I can't hear you.
No, I'm not. No,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, yeah, that's it. If there are no questions, then we can, end the interview.
Yeah, sure. I'm very happy and pleasure to be with you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Ekta. It was a pleasure talking to you, and have a nice day.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You too.
Thank you. Thanks.